Hi, everybody. It's October 18th, and in some places there's an election in 12 days, at least for me locally. And in America, the midterms are in a couple of weeks. And this week we talked a little about voting. And if you're mad, doesn't matter what end of the spectrum you're on, if you're far left or far right or somewhere in the middle, if you're unhappy with how things are going and how your elected officials are doing, you need to get out there and make your voice heard. At the very least, vote. At the very most, demonstrate. Run for office. Make sure, donate to your favorite candidate. Write a letter to the editor. I talked a little bit this week also about when something terrible happens to you, when it is perpetrated by another human being, how it's really good if someone can say to you, I hear you, and believes you. And just saying that something may have happened to someone isn't good enough, and we need to show up and be a little bit more attentive for the people in our lives. Also, not to be afraid to actually tell the truth and to say what happened. Because in our world right now, unfortunately, it's okay to shut somebody down and to bully them when you don't agree with them. And maybe not so long ago, there used to be something called polite discourse, where you could talk to someone and disagree with them, and that was okay. And I think I'd like to figure out a way to get back to that place where there's polite discourse. Now, on our site this week, we had some people talking about what they like to do to relieve stress. So I think we're going to have to get a boat trip going or something, because we've got people who want to be out there on the sea or on the ocean. Being outside was popular for people, of a way to deal with stress or to just sort of get back to feeling part of nature or part of the world around you. I think we all spend so much time and energy in front of our little computers that sometimes we forget that there's a whole other world out there where there are real people that you can talk to and interact with. And real people, oh, hi, Rafi, and real people that you can actually have a face-to-face with. I went to a meeting earlier this week, a network meeting, and it was amazing to hear about all these great things that all these other people were doing and interacting, and it was really magical. And what was amazing to me about it was the fact that a lot of the people in the room didn't know each other, and nobody likes to be the odd kid out. Nobody likes to walk into a room where they don't know anyone. But we're not in 8th grade anymore, and we don't have to be so awkward. And I find that when you do go into a room full of people and you smile, someone will smile back at you. You stick your hand out and introduce yourself, and that person might be a new friend or someone who doesn't agree with any of the things that you think are important, but allows you the right to be who you are. And I think that is really amazing. And I think at the moment when there seems to be no middle ground, that it's really important that we find that middle ground with the people who are closest to us. You know that old saying that you never discuss religion or politics? I don't think that's necessarily true. I think if you want to discuss politics, that's okay. But discussing something with someone and yelling at them until they acquiesce or back down is not the same thing. There used to be a time when it was a lot easier to have people who believed a lot of different things, and they were still polite, and they were still compassionate, and there was such a thing as a compromise. And I think those things are lacking in our world today. and that's something that we can all make a difference by just listening to what someone has to say. And maybe you don't agree with them. And I think if you think about the relationships that you have in your life, do you agree with everyone around you all the time? No. And especially if you're in a long-term relationship with someone, do you ever agree to disagree? I think agreeing to disagree and moving on or reaching a compromise is a much more human way to interact and a much more civil way to reach some kind of an agreement, because we all are on this planet together. And if you have people who not necessarily agree with you, but for instance, the right of way when you're driving, that's a perfect example. If you give someone the right of way, if you gesture to someone who maybe reached the intersection after you did, and you want to see the look on their face, if you just gesture for them to go first, sometimes people are shocked. I did this today. Someone was sitting behind the wheel of their car like this, and I gestured for them to go because they were obviously in a bigger hurry than I was. And their eyes got big and round, and they smiled and they waved, and they said, "No, you go first." And we did this for a while, back and forth, and then finally I waved them through and they went on. And you know what? I wasn't late. It took about a minute of my life, and probably that person chuckled all the way till where they were going, because this crazy woman in a little Honda waved them through an intersection. Not everybody out there is your enemy, and not everybody out there, we don't need to be in a combative situation all the time. So, okay, you may not have the same political views that I do. Does that make yours any less relevant? No. And for those of you out there who are parents, agreeing to disagree with your children is a very good thing to learn. Because when you are a parent and you say, do this because I'm your mother and I know better, kids aren't really going to go along with that for very long. You have to have a better reason than that. Just because you're bigger and stronger and older and have the car keys doesn't mean that you are right. So explaining yourself to people or agreeing to disagree is a much easier and better way, I think, to get along in the world. And next week, our blog is about parenting. And if you had wonderful parents, then that's great, and you will probably want to emulate those relationships. But if you maybe weren't raised in the perfect situation, then I give you 5 ways to really sort of check in with yourself to be a better parent, and in that way be a better person. Because we're entrusted with these little beings, and we would like to leave the world a better place for us having been here. And so we need to sort of compromise. There's a lot of people living on this planet together, and being able to compromise, hi Robert, being able to compromise and being able to at least see the other person's point of view before you shout them down or say, I'm not going to listen to you because you don't agree with me, we're not going to make very much progress as human beings. Oh, hi Robert. So that's my message for the week, is before you pour your opinion out on someone, before they've even been able to articulate what they're saying, take a breath and try to listen to what they're saying before you react and before you think of them as an adversary or think of them as an enemy. Just think of them as another human being doing the best they can with the information they have at the time, and just let it go. Or maybe in your head say, okay, I don't agree with this person at all, but I'm going to be polite, I'm going to be civil, and I'm going to just let it go. And maybe if we all do that, we can bring some civilized discourse back into our world. because I think it's badly needed. So everybody have a good week. I will see you here next week. And if you have questions, pop them into the little box or at This Way Forward, and I'll be happy to answer them during the week. So thanks a lot. Be kind to yourself, and I'll see you soon.